Since bad people exist everywhere and the police aren't exempt either, let's take a look at some of the worst female police officers and what they've done. From pulling guns for the smallest offenses to greed and corruption to sex scandals, there have been quite a few incidents involving female police officers that showed that an abuse of power is not gender-specific. Rose Valentino. Rose Valentino, a 14-year-old Cincinnati Police Department veteran, was terminated following a racial outburst that was caught on her body camera. Apparently losing her cool while operating a marked police vehicle while on duty due to traffic on April 5, 2011, Valentino, a frequent cast member of the 2011 TLC reality television series Police Ladies of Cincinnati, lost her cool. A queue of cars waiting to pick up pupils from Western Hills University High School could be seen when Valentino drew into the station's driveway to finish her story. Valentino lowered down her window to order the drivers to relocate the cars when she used her lights and siren, becoming loudly enraged. However, the article claims that when a black male student passed by and gave Valentino the middle finger, that's when things really started to spiral out of control. In her inebriated answer to the adolescent kid at Cruiser's window, Valentino became enraged and may have been harmed, as captured on her body camera. Valentino had previously been charged with domestic violence and criminal damage after a confrontation with her sister earlier in 2020, so this wasn't her first run-in with the law. Although she claimed not to be guilty, her police badge showed that she was. Investigators were informed by Valentino that she does not use racial insults and that she has no racial biases that have harmed her work. She added that this was a one-time occurrence and that her rage that day was targeted. She still lacks perfect emotional control, as seen by the rage she had over something as insignificant as traffic. According to Interim Police Chief Teresa Teague, any sworn or civilian employee of the Cincinnati Police Department will not put up with this kind of offensive speech. Teresa Teague's suggestion to fire Valentino was accepted by the city officials, and Valentino was relieved of her duties. Melissa Hall. A huge sexual scandal has overtaken LaVerne, a small town in Tennessee. This tale is about Melissa Hall, a patrol officer with the LaVerne Police Department who had sex with 4 other officers, both on duty and off duty, and was fired along with them. Patrol police Juan Lugo Perez, Louis Powell, and Patrick Magliaco are among the other police involved, along with Sergeant Henry Time McGowan, Detective Seneca Shields, and patrol officers. Following the inquiry, 3 additional policemen were placed on administrative leave: Patrick Magliaco, Detective Larry Holliday, and Gavin Showborough. Some shocking information was discovered as a result of the investigation. Holland kissed them after he found out that he and his wife, Amy, were married in an open relationship, according to Magliaco, who admitted having sex with Hall on multiple occasions. Magliaco further admitted that since the spring of 2022, he and his wife had been enjoying an open relationship with Hall during the probe. He continued by saying that Hall's husband had caught them in the act with his wife and didn't seem to be in favor of the arrangement. Officer Louis Powell was also implicated by Magliaco, who informed investigators that Hall had informed him of Powell's enormous black D and that they had engaged in oral sex while performing their official duties. Detective Seneca Shields initially denied having relations with Hall, but after being pressed by the investigators, she gave in and admitted that they had engaged in oral sex in the department's gym while she was on duty. Magliaco even admitted that he had once caught Hall having oral sex. Later, the officer acknowledged engaging in many sexual encounters with Hall, claiming that they would rendezvous in hotel rooms for their liaison officer. McGowan reportedly acknowledged visiting Hall's residence with a female companion and bearing his genitalia. But the most interesting development in this scandal occurred at a Memorial Day hot tub party at a boathouse. The party was a girls-only gathering that was organized by Officer Stats. He also invited the wives and kids of the department's police officers to the celebration on his boat. Another cop claimed that at the party, Magliaco had been shoving alcohol down Hall's throat in the hot tub immediately before she undressed. Hall was immediately covered up by Officer Durham, who intervened to stop her from drinking. According to both German statistics, they had never acted in an improper manner. Hall first denied having ties with the men in her department outside of holidays, but she later acknowledged sending them nude photos, the report alleges, including to Holliday, Magliaco, and Officer Showborough. She had intercourse with a friend, and Juan Lugo Perez, Hall also admitted. At the conclusion of the full investigation into this scandal, Holliday, Magliaco, and Showborough were placed on administrative leave. and Powell, Shields, and McGowan were fired for breaking police protocol and lying throughout the inquiry. Hall ended up copying her affair with Lugo in a motel after they met at a go-kart track, even though Lugo originally denied indulging in any suitable behaviors with Stephanie Lazarus. Sherry Rasmussen, the daughter of Dr. Nell Rasmussen, was brutally murdered on February 24, 1986, in the apartment she was renting in the neighborhood of Van Nuys in Los Angeles. She had been brutally abused and shot a total of 3 times before being abandoned for dead. Her passing had a profound impact on her family, notably on her father and her husband of just 3 months, John Rasmussen. In this specific instance, love, envy, and maybe even obsession played a role in the commission of the murder. Before Sherry passed away, she had revealed to her father that she had a strong suspicion that an LAPD officer by the name of Stephanie J. Lazarus was following her and that she might be in danger of losing her life. Sherry and her father shared a very strong bond. The investigating detective rejected Dr. Rasmussen's worries and came to the conclusion that Sherry's death was the consequence of an unsuccessful effort to steal a box. This was despite the fact that Sherry had told her father everything she knew about what happened. In addition, during the course of the investigation, any information that pointed to a distinction was simply ignored by the investigators. After Sherry's loss, her father was devastated, and he did not give up until the person responsible for the murder of his daughter was identified. Because John Rutan, Sherry's husband, was the target of this heinous murder, many people were led to assume that the police had committed it on purpose in order to defend one of their own. John Rutan was Sherry's husband. Before John married Sherry, the two had already put in a significant amount of time together. After meeting each other at UCLA in 1982, they ultimately decided to complete their degrees together. Despite the turbulence of their on-again, off-again romance, John eventually met Sherry Rasmussen when they were both in college. Sherry and John were not quite college sweethearts. Sherry had already attained the post of Director of Nursing at the Glendale Adventist Medical Center when she moved fast up the ranks at her place of employment. However, despite the fact that Rutan had somewhat moved on from his former connection, Stephanie remained a continual third wheel in the couple's relationship, and despite Sherry's doubts, John could never entirely let go of Stephanie. The couple married in 1985. Despite the fact that Rutan had sort of moved on from his previous relationship, Stephanie remained a persistent third wheel in the couple's relationship. Even though Rutan and Stephanie had one more sexual encounter immediately before he married Sherry, ostensibly for closure, the fact that Lazarus was so obsessed with John did not help the situation. On the day of the murder, Sherry had called in ill to work, but John had gone to work as usual. Sherry's absence from work was what led to John's death. Sherry's lifeless body was lying on the floor of the living room when he returned home to find a horrifying scene with broken objects strewn all over the place, a bloody handprint next to the panic button, and his own body drenched in blood. Sherry's arm had a bite mark when the police arrived, and they took a swab of the wound with them for DNA testing at the lab. Nonetheless, at that time, the DNA testing equipment wasn't as advanced as it is today, which is why the investigation was finally abandoned. Nonetheless, the case was revisited 23 years later when the LAPD acquired more advanced technology. Following the completion of DNA testing on the bite mark, the identity of the suspect was revealed to be a female. The investigatory detectives decided to pursue Stephanie Lazarus after seeing her name in the files in May 2009. A match was found when they examined a sample of Lazarus's saliva from a discarded coffee cup to the cotton swab. Lazarus was given a 25 life sentence by Superior Court Judge Robert Perry for her first-degree murder and an additional 2 years for lighting a fire for personal purpose. He put a stop to a case that had been ongoing for 20 years, and the Rasmussen family received justice at last. Eventually, Stephanie was detained, questioned, and then tried. Prosecutors asserted throughout the trial that Lazarus's actions were brought on by jealousy after her ex-lover Rutan decided to wed Rasmussen. In the following comment section, please share your thoughts concerning the female officers of the police department. Remember to give our channel a follow by subscribing to it. I am grateful for your watching.